Brett, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Ron's not here, and you're the vice chair. Are you comfortable doing it remotely?
I guess I could, unless somebody else wants to step in that's there. Probably be a little easier.
What
since
would
I'm
you prefer? I think we can
Our attorney is checking right now to see.
look into that, and we may be able to do it if you're not comfortable doing it from away.
I just think with
Oh,
the
never
delay,
mind.
that's the weird thing.
Yay!
Never mind, Brett. Ron just showed up. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry for being tardy. We've got 6:01. Thanks for coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting this evening, January 28th, 2025. We'll start with a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Garner? Miller?
Here.
Daffer?
Here.
Turner?
Here.
Kehoe? Here. Morgan? Kirkman?
Here.
Selman? Here. Van Acker Jr.?
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Rodney, we have a report on council action and any communications.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Rodney Ashby for the record. So we had a subdivision final plat go before City Council last night, and that one was for Sunnyvale subdivision number 6. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved it and on the 14th, and so City Council approved it yesterday, no problem. The next one was an annexation and zoning for the property on Airport Road, corner of Airport and Happy Valley. You had recommended that one on as approval. That's the one that had the playground equipment, storage and industrial type business there. That one was approved. The next one was a comprehensive plan map amendment from RMU to medium density residential. And this was for, it was a larger area, but it was down off of South Side and near the New York Landing, including the New York Landing as well, and then some areas that were not annexed yet. And it just went to medium density residential, and you had recommended approval, and they did approve that. And then finally, the kind of the most communication we got was on this appeal of the conditional use permit that, so the conditional use permit for the Project Spud or Tractor Supply Company that you had approved. It went to City Council. They overturned your decision. The applicant filed for a reconsideration, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of another one. This one was just an approval, and then from you, and then an appeal to City Council, and the City Council did approve it as you had recommended. And that's all I have.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to adopt and approve the consent agenda unless there's any discussion.
So moved. Second.
A motion from Commissioner Kirkman, a second from Daffer to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Consent agenda is approved and adopted. We'll go ahead and move on to the public hearings this evening. We've got another five on the agenda this evening. If you haven't signed up in the back to speak for, against, or undecided, I recommend you do so, or if you change your mind halfway through and you'd like to speak, we'll call for additional speakers or people from the public, citizens that would like to provide testimony. Just kind of the quick ground rules and flow of the meeting. We'll have the applicant come up and present their project. They'll have 7 minutes to do so. Then we will hear from staff. They'll present the staff report. After the staff report, we'll move into the public testimony part of the hearing, and if you're signed up, we'll call your name in order that you signed up. Come up, state your name and address for the record as we're recording this evening, and always. Give us your testimony, ask your questions, concerns. You'll have 3 minutes to get what you need to say out there, and then after everyone has gone and had the opportunity to speak, we will have the applicant come back up and answer questions, or staff can answer questions that came up during the public hearing. Then we'll close the public hearing. We'll deliberate amongst the commission, and we'll render a decision for each item. So we'll go ahead and move right into the first item on the agenda is an annexation and zoning to RS4. Zoning district, potential development agreement, and preliminary plat for Grand Central subdivision on a 6.54 acre parcel at 4314 East Railroad Street. For Jaron Langston representing Theodore and Nancy Waugh for the original concept of 31 lots for single-family detached dwelling units and 5 common lots. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, come on up. Oh, and applicants also need to state their name and address for the record if this is your first time, but I don't think it is.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for having us here tonight. My name is Josh Schrader. I'm the civil engineer on the project. My address is 7689 West Meltwater Lane, Eagle, Idaho. And as Commissioner Van Acker stated tonight, we are here asking for a annexation and zoning to RS4 of a project at 4314 East Railroad Street. It is down south of Amity, west of Happy Valley, and it's surrounded mostly by Reflections Edge, which is a KB Home project. The project, as you stated, is 6.5 acres. We originally submitted an application for 31 homes, and after we were hoping for a waiver from engineering and fire, and with their comment, they came back and said 30. So that was Friday, and we have updated the site plan and provided that to Christie, showing 30 single-family homes. Our project is an affordable housing, well, it's not affordable housing, but it's providing affordable housing for families. And as you can see here in the green, that's our active open space. The bottom right corner is a water quality basin, and the top yellow areas are 25-foot landscape buffer. You can see the homes are plotted there. Throughout the subdivision, there's about 30 lots. We have a cul-de-sac that is going to be a public street. And then you can see around the outside of the project, we have walking paths, and we have a couple areas for amenities as well. The future land use map, it shows this for residential mixed use. And then the zoning that's around us, like I mentioned with Reflections Edge, is generally RS4. They have some portions of RS7. So our application for RS4 is contingent with is congruent with what's around us. So as I stated, we're going to be asking for annexation into Nampa. Proposed zoning as RS4. We're going to be dedicating the right-of-way for Railroad Street through that area, which is south of our project, in addition to the cul-de-sac that's on site. With RS4 zoning, we're looking at minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet, maximum 8,000. We are providing a maximum lot size of 7,350. Our average is just under 5,000, and then we meet all of our setbacks. The big thing that I want to point out here is our open space. The requirement's only 15%. We well surpass that just with our active open space on this project. So we're going to be providing decent amenities, areas to play, et cetera, to go with the family-friendly environment. This is just the preliminary plat to show that we updated it and resubmitted that to Christie earlier today with the 30 lots. And then the infrastructure that we're going to be providing is the public road cul-de-sac. Public utilities will be connecting to the city utilities everywhere, all of the different city utilities. As I mentioned before, 22% active space, and I threw in a couple pictures of walking paths and tot lots, and we would like to do a pickleball court, but that is up for discussion, I guess. Here's a couple renderings of what we're anticipating for the home styles on the project. And then in conclusion, we're consistent with the zoning that's surrounding us. It's a family-friendly project. We're well surpassing what's required of our open space, and we're providing an affordable price point for families. So thank you, commissioners. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant at this time? All right. Appreciate it. We'll hear from staff and
Thank you.
public and call you back up. Chrissy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. As stated, the action requested from you this evening is a recommendation of approval for annexation and zoning to RS4 and a preliminary plat for the Grand Central subdivision. A traffic impact study is not required for this project because of the size. Daniel did have some comments regarding a common driveway improvement, easements for the common driveway, right-of-way, streetlight locations, and then the standard locations of water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation. The property is contiguous with the city limits on all sides, where it abuts RS7 and IL zoned city property. The proposed RS4 zoning district is a permitted zone under the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map designation of residential mixed use. The homes built in this development will match the area in standard building construction, pitched roofs, garages, and yard areas with trees and landscaping. The zoning to the north is, immediately to the north is RS7. Further to the north is RS4, RP, and BC zoning. To the south is IL, which is the railroad tracks and vacant county land. To the east is RS4 and RS7, which is the Reflections Edge subdivision, as he stated. And to the west is Canyon County large lot single-family residential. Also, further to the east, just off of Happy Valley, there's a BC zoned property that is developing out as storage units. So the property is located in a residential mixed-use area. The comprehensive plan defines compatibility in design and visual relationship to adjacent properties. It also defines incompatible land uses which are known or expected to cause environmental problems to one another when in proximity, which we have determined that this will not. The comp plan outlines the purpose and goals of mixed-use development, to build neighborhoods with reasonable access to services, to encourage innovative design, creative placement, and sustainable functions of structures, to encourage uses that are compatible with each other and the surrounding land uses, to provide opportunities for qualified, affordable housing, to promote efficient use of resources, and to encourage smart growth development. Correspondence was received from engineering with their standard list of comments and conditions. The fire department also submitted comments on water supply and fire access. They also gave them 3 options. Because they exceeded the 30 lots, they needed to either reduce it to 30, which they did, or they had a couple other options that they chose not to go with. So this has been satisfied as far as their new their new layout that they proposed today. The fire department has stated that it is 2.5 miles from fire station number 5 with an approximate response time of 5 minutes. And they would have a need for increased personnel of 0.09 firefighter positions. You guys asked last time how these numbers were calculated. So Ron included that in his notes. The number of residents is calculated by multiplying the number of proposed units by 2.8 per the U.S. Census data for the average household size in Nampa. Now, as you and I have both noted, the police department comes up with a different number. I don't know what formula they use, but this is the formula that's used by the fire department. Nampa Police recommends a commitment to fund .1 additional officers and .05 additional support staff. And the Nampa Forester had some comments on alternative tree species due to difficult environment for the flame amur maple to grow. So they are required to have 15% open space. Qualified open space is provided within 1.27 acres of the platted area, which is 21% of the qualified open space. Amenities include a playground, pickleball court, green play space, and pathways. The plat notes 29%, but that also includes the drainage area and landscaping, and he clarified that in his presentation. The 25-foot landscape buffer is required along Railroad Street, and it shows a 25-foot landscape buffer that will need to just have that alternative tree species identified. So the platting for this project will serve to divide the land into parcels. It must be done in accordance with state law, Nampa City Code 1027, 10.8, and 1033, and in cooperation with the city's currently adopted engineering design and specifications manual. The density required for this RS4 zone is 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. On the area that will be left over after right-of-way dedication, the project proposes a density of 5.23 dwelling units per acre. Lot sizes range from 4,000 to 7,355 square feet. The maximum lot size is 8, the minimum lot size is 4, so they fall within that range. Lot width and lot depth are appropriate according to city code. So there are 4 criteria to be used in determining the appropriateness of annexation. Number 1, all the landowners have consented to this annexation. Number 2, the property is contiguous to the city limits. Number 3, the area is included in the boundary noted in the comprehensive plan. And number 4, it is a part of the agreement with Nampa Highway District Number 1 that will state annexation and maintenance of that roadway once we own over 50% of it. So for zoning, there are 3 criteria that need to be found. The first one is, does it propose a compatible zone? Staff finds that it does because it establishes an area of RS4 zoning that is the same as or compatible with the immediately surrounding districts, and because the proposed zoning district does meet the residential mixed-use designation. The proposed map amendment provides a use or set of uses that would be reasonably compatible with adjoining properties. And it is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it has proposed a subdivision layout that utilizes existing city utilities, utilizes infill property, will install frontage improvements, and is compatible with the surrounding uses and complies with city code. So these are the recommended conditions of approval. These are the potential motions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Christie?
Too thorough. No questions, she was too thorough.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open public testimony for this this item. Madam Clerk, is there a sign-up sheet?
We have no one pre-signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Now is your time. All right, Mr. Applicant, do you have anything last-minute words or anything to say? Okay. Okay.
Chair, make the motion to close public hearing.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kehoe to close the public hearing and a second by Daffer. All those in favor of closing public hearing say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Public hearing's closed. What do we think? I think it's a good use of infill property.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, I like all the extra playground area, even though it's not a playground,
You can play pickleball there.
probably.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS4 zoning district, potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Grand Central subdivision on a 6.54 acre parcel at 4314 East Railroad Street for Jaron Langston, who's representing Theodore and Nancy Waugh. with all conditions listed in the staff report, and adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kirkman and a second by Kehoe to recommend approval of this annexation, zoning, and preliminary plat, potential development agreement. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. That will move on to council. Thank you very much. Move right along to action item number 2, subdivision short plat approval for replat of the Mason Creek Drift subdivision in an RS6 zoning district, a total of 1.6 acres in 9 parcels addressed as 2354, 2368, 2382, 2396, 2410, 2424, 2438, and 2452 East Hidden Creek Street in 1 common lot for Scott Zierler, representing Patrick Thank you, McMonigal of Prestige Homes, Inc., to adjust the rear lot lines and side setbacks on 8 lots and 1 common area to meet minimum lot sizes and setbacks for detached single-family homes. Is the applicant here this evening?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
My name's
evening.
Pat McMonigal, 2701 East Table Rock Road, Boise, Idaho. A couple months ago, I met with Christie because we wanted to, the rest of the subdivision is attached single-family homes, and we wanted, these lots were a little bit larger, and we wanted to do detached single-family homes. And she said the only way that you could do that would be to increase the lot size to 6,000 square feet. Some of them were, some of them weren't, so we opted to do a lot line adjustment to get them all up to 6,000 square feet. And that's the purpose of the plat,
Okay,
to be able to do detached.
all righty. Anybody have questions right now? Great, we'll hear from staff and Christie again.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. I'm not going to read through all of that again, but this is a shift in lot lines for the Mason Creek Drift subdivision. The current jurisdiction, it is inside the city limits, and it's zoned RS6. To the north is RS6 single-family homes on larger lots with vacant, unused land. To the east is enclaved Canyon County property that's residential. To the south is RS6 single-family in the Spicewood subdivision, and to the west is RS6 single-family lots. In April of 2020, Mason Creek Drift final plat was recorded for townhouses and has been under construction since that time. It does have city water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation available to all the properties. He already stated his request. These are the applicable regulations that shall be followed. The platting of this project will have to be done in accordance with state law and Nampa City Code 1027 and 10.8, which is where that minimum 6,000 square foot lot size comes from. So the overall area that they're proposing for this is 1.6 acres. There are 9 total lots. There is no qualified open space required. 1, from the time this was built, we did not have that in our code, and 2, short plats are exempt from open space requirements. The minimum property area is 6,000 square feet. The smallest lot size is 6,023. Maximum is 12,000 square feet. The largest lot size is 6,033. Lot width and lot depth both meet code, and the landscape plan was not required for this replat because it was already installed. There were no comments received that affect the relocation of these property lines. These are your proposed findings for approval, and these are your potential motions. I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff or Christie? All right, we'll move on right along to public testimony for this application. Madam Clerk, do we have a sign-up sheet?
Mr. Chair, we have no one signed up for this item.
All righty, thank you. Anybody here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Now's your chance. And I have to ask, Mr. McMonigal, do you have anything else to say or any other comments?
There was no requirement for an open space area, but that one common lot would classify as
We're gonna need to have them come up
You
to
gotta
the
come up
mic.
if you want to ask a question.
Okay, Commissioners, I wanted to bring up the point that we do have common area, even though it isn't required. So we talked about the 9 lots. One of them is a large common area lot that backs up to all of the properties, and it is fully landscaped at this point in time.
Sweet, we appreciate that. There's just no specific requirement for a short plat. That's all the comment was, but thank you.
You've exceeded.
Overachiever. Overachiever. Yep. All right.
I move to close public hearing. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kirkman and a second by Daffer to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Public hearing is closed. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate getting all the open space.
I'll make a motion then we approve the subdivision short plat approval for replat of the Mason Creek Drift subdivision in a RS6 zoning district, a total of 1.6 acres in 9 parcels addressed specifically at 2354, 2368, 2382, 2396, 2410, 2424, 2438, 2452 East Hidden Creek Street, and 1 common lot for Scott Zierler, representing Patrick McMonigal of Prestige Homes, and adopt the proposed findings in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kirkman and a second by Selman to approve the short plat approval for the replat. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That is approved, and thank you for your time. Can we, when we have approvals, not recommendations, but approvals, and we get it approved, can we shoot confetti cannons out somewhere? Just for some fun?
Off to the
No.
side.
Okay, third item on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district and potential development agreement for a .38 acre parcel at 7736 Birch Lane for Joshua and Michelle Ruman for an annexation of parcel for future single-family dwelling unit. Is the applicant here this evening? Yes, sir. All right. Come on up and state your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to do.
My name is Josh Ruman, 7736 Birch Lane, and we're asking to convert the existing .38 acre that's in the county back to the city. There's a house that was existing on there for 40 years. We're just going to put a single-family house back there for my mother-in-law.
Cool. Sure you want to do that?
Yes.
Just kidding. All right. Anybody have questions? All right. We will hear from staff and call you back up if we have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Damien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So the requested action item tonight is the annexation and zoning of a single parcel to RS 8.5.
Can you pull that mic a little closer to you? Sorry. Having trouble hearing. Thanks.
So action item for tonight is the annexation and zoning of a single parcel to RS 8.5, single-family residential, for the development of 1 single-family dwelling unit. The property details: the surrounding property to the north, south, east, and west is RS6, single-family residential. Then right to the southwest, we have a county enclave. The proposed RS 8.5 is a permitted zone under the comprehensive plan, future map land use, and the designation of medium-density residential. And for the comprehensive plan, this would be considered infill. Currently, there are services available for this property. In the instance that it is annexed, the properties around it are all currently serviced. For correspondence, we received no comments on this application. There are 4 findings for annexation. All private landowners have consented to the annexation. That the property shall be contiguous with city limits, not only through a shoestring connection or strip of land comprising of the highway's right-of-way. that the comprehensive plan includes the area of annexation, and when applicable for annexation of roadways, all portions of highways lying partially or wholly to be annexed with contiguous parcel unless by express agreement with the highway maintenance districts indicates otherwise. And staff found that all these requirements have been met. There are 3 requirements for zoning. The first is that the proposed map amendments are or would be in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and comprehensive planned use map. And this was found to be met since it matches the zoning of the surrounding properties. The second is that the proposed map amendments are or would provide for a proposed use of set of uses that would be least reasonably compatible with existing or adjoining property uses. Staff found this to be met. 3, that the proposed amendments are or would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. And staff found this to be met. Here are the recommended conditions for approval. Here are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Damian? All right, thank you. We'll move on to public testimony for this item. Madam Clerk, do we have a sign-up sheet?
We have no one pre-signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this project? Now is your time. Okay. Mr. Rumman, anything else to add or any questions? All right. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kehoe and a second by Kirkman to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Did Brett chime in, or did we lose him?
I think he was on mute or something. But Brett, you were good to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was a vote, right? We just voted? Okay. Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. This is right next to the one we did last week,
Real close.
or 2 weeks ago. I wasn't here last week.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district and potential development agreement for a 0.38 acre at 7736 Birch Lane for Joshua and Michelle Roman with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Daffer and a second by Kirkman to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning for this property. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. That will move on to City Council with a recommendation of approval. Thank you. We're cruising.
Yeah.
Item number 4 on the agenda this evening is a zoning map amendment from IP to BC zoning district and potential development agreement for 1.18 acres at 1405 West Industrial Road for Calvin Berg for the original concept to rezone the property to allow storage of manufactured homes awaiting delivery to customer locations. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up. Sure. Just need your name and address, please.
All right, so my name is Christian Berg. Address is 3708 Clifton Way, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. Okay, so basically what our goal is to turn this into storage. We do own the adjacent property, which is just below that, where we sell manufactured homes. When we spoke to Rodney, he discussed that there was a road front that we need to beautify, which we have agreed to. But at this time, our goal is just to do storage. Our goal to do storage is mainly because homes are that can be 4 months out from being delivered, we do need to have storage for them to sit. So at that time, this is our goal. That is it.
Okay. That's it. Pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask a question of the applicant?
Sure. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
How long, I mean, it seems like you would have some homes there all the time.
Yeah, so we currently have 10 homes on lot. They are show homes. And another thing I'll add is we have agreed to kind of mimic what we're doing as show homes. So these storage units would be put together. They wouldn't be put together inside, but they would mimic as they are being showed.
So they would look like they're together, so.
Correct, yes,
They
exactly.
wouldn't be pieced apart. And how many can you put on this particular lot?
If we do the same as we have there, we can probably fit close to 6 or 7 comfortably and not make it look like a mess. It would be organized.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Great. Rodney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director, for the record. Okay, so the request before you is to change from IP zoning or industrial park to the BC zoning. And I think he's done a good job of describing what their purpose is. The comprehensive plan lists this as commercial. The surrounding land uses are primarily industrial in nature. And then there's some commercial to the south there, but you can see a little closer view there. Again, their property that they're currently functioning on is right here, just directly to the south, and then they would expand into this property here. The city utilities are existing in the area, but they're not requesting that at this time. It's just primarily for storage. And there's a little bit closer view of it as it existed at the time of this aerial. So here are the applicable regulations for the rezone. We've gone over this on several other projects today, so I won't spend a ton of time on this. Here are some of the landscaping requirements. Just a couple of points here. The landscaping standards shall apply to new development and redevelopment of the property. And the right-of-way between the property line and the developed roadway shall be landscaped, and it can include crushed rock or gravel. It needs to include low-growing shrubs and flowers. No more than 50% of the area may be planted in turf grass, and trees may be planted as well in that area. Interior yards need to be landscaped as well, or they need to be paved in some way. Landscape buffer on this is a 20-foot landscape depth.
Hey, Rodney?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I have a quick question. If you go back, the roadway, developed roadway, and then down in the table, the local collector arterial road street, does that include the off-ramp from I-84 that's just north of this property?
Yeah, but if you look back on this site here, you can see that industrial is actually in between. It's another road.
So there's
It's just a
nothing
local.
on the other side of that road that needs to be, okay.
So the landscaping does need to be done. As I said, the paving has to be done wherever a vehicle is traversing. That needs to be done unless you're screening it from view with a fence or a wall that meets our standards for design review. So that is what the applicant is suggesting they will be doing, is putting in a really nice fence around that area where they're storing these buildings. And this is just the justification for when that is required. And this is basically what I just told you. They have to make improvements. In addition to that, they have sidewalk improvements that they have to do. But our engineering division, I think it's a department now. Development engineering,
I don't know. Engineering's fine.
Engineering has verbally communicated that they would be supportive of a deferral until the roadway improvements are constructed, and that could happen in the near future.
So the project is in development where we would be closing that 3rd Street connection to Franklin and relocating that to the south. And so we are in a design process with our consultant on that. Funding and construction year, I believe, is 27 or 28.
Thanks, Daniel. And then I just put this second paragraph in here just as a reminder. We had a meeting with City Council last week, and our attorney, our new attorney, and as well as our current attorney were both there, and essentially said the same thing. Just to remember that when you have a rezone, you're limited on your ability to deny it a lot more than an annexation. And so an annexation, you're not in a quasi-judicial role, you're in a legislative role, so that you can decide whether to accept that annexation or not. But when you're changing a zone, if it meets the comprehensive plan and it meets your zoning standards, you're in a quasi-judicial role. It's almost what one person said is that it's almost like you're putting on your robes and you're deciding, okay, does this meet the criteria? If so, then it needs to be approved. So just it was a quick reminder. We just had that last week, so I thought this was a good opportunity to just remind you of that direction from our attorney. This is the correspondence we've received. The reference to that industrial roadway being a local road, the utilities in the area, and then they need to follow access standards. And then there are conditions, which I've incorporated into the conditions of the project. So here's the proposed findings, the reason statement required by state code. There's a lot here. I'm not going to go into detail here except when there's a really controversial project. There has been some ruling recently by the Idaho Supreme Court that that really focused on these findings, and so I just want to make sure we cover them pretty well in these meetings. But again, you've had them in your staff report. They support the conclusion, and here's the conclusion that we determined. This is in your staff report. So the proposed map amendment is in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and the comprehensive plan land use map. And then all the reasons that I gave in the previous slide are essentially summarized here. The comp plan language narrative describes the appropriateness of the BC zone and the uses in there. And then also the comprehensive plan map designates this area as commercial. So. All right, same thing for this one. The proposed zoning map amendment provides a set of uses that would be reasonably compatible with the existing adjoining property use because the land uses in the area are primarily commercial and industrial, and this is kind of a mix of industrial and commercial, and it just seemed to fit the land use that they are proposing seemed to fit into that commercial/industrial use. It was kind of weird. The industrial IL zone does not allow this type of use to occur, and that's why they're having to go to the BC zone. Okay, so this is the next one. The proposed map amendment are reasonably assumed to be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because the comprehensive plan describes the need for supporting businesses, expanding jobs. There's utilities in the area. The uses in the area are consistent. So those are the reasons there. And then here are the proposed conditions of approval. And I've forwarded this on to the applicant. They're aware of these conditions. And then a couple of motions for your consideration, and I'd stand for questions if you have any.
Yes.
Rodney, on the first page of the staff report, it said, or made mention of the fact that the lot was going to be used for the storage of homes that were sold but not ready for delivery yet because the lots weren't completed, or whatever. It makes no difference what the lot's used for, right? Well, tonight they didn't mention that. They just mentioned it's excess inventory.
That's correct, yeah. I mean, they're just storing those to be placed somewhere else. If it were residential and people were living in them, it would matter.
Right. Doesn't sound like
because-
that's.
Yeah, and that's not what's happening here.
Okay. So we're okay then.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to public testimony for this item. Madam Clerk, do we have a sign-up sheet?
Mr. Chair, we have no one signed up for this item.
All righty. I'll ask anybody here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application.
Motion to close public hearing.
Mr. Berg, do you have any final comments or thoughts or questions? Okay, great.
Now,
We have a motion on the table to close the public hearing.
Second.
Kehoe, and a second by, give it to Selman. By Selman. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
I hesitated, Chair, that's why.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from IP to BC zoning district for parcel R312280000, 1.8 acres at 1405 West Industrial Road for Calvin Berg, with the proposed conditions and to adopt the proposed findings of approval.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Daffer and a second by Kirkman to recommend approval of this rezone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That will go with the recommendation of approval to City Council. Thank you. And on to the fifth and last item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for 4 duplex units in an RS6 zoning district at 2705 Port Street, 0.72 acre parcel for Idaho Real Estate Solutions, representing DeRay Quarters. For the original concept of future development of 4 duplex buildings totaling 8 dwelling units on land that will be subdivided into 4 parcels. It's the applicant. Hello. Please state your name and address and tell us what you'd like to do.
I'm Jim Anderson. My address is 5775 Verde Drive, Napa, Idaho. The original idea was to split this into 4 lots and put 4 single-family homes on it, with the intention of them being rentals. In looking at the city of Napa and the number of available family-oriented house rentals being low, we changed our plan to create duplexes, once again focusing on being a family-friendly environment. So each duplex would have 2 1,400 to 1,500 square foot 3-bedroom homes and a 2-car garage. The lot sizes would still be 5,000 plus or minus 500, plus or minus 10%, with all the appropriate setbacks required by the city and landscape buffers as well. Existing on the property right now is a 1910 farmhouse, which apparently was the farmhouse for the orchards that used to be there years and years ago. It sits in what would be one of the lots, so it would eventually get torn down and replaced with new construction. So the entire development would be new construction, current code compliant, and as I said, the intention of creating a family space for the people living here. So the conditional use permit is to move from the single family to the duplex concept. And we wanted to present this first before we moved any further with the short plat, so that we didn't overspend in development ideas and paperwork.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. We may have some later. Damien, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The requested action item for tonight is a conditional use permit for 4 duplex units in an RS6 single-family residential zoning district at 2705 Port Street. And the concept is to have 4 separate lots with 8 dwelling units in duplex. So per the applicant's request, the 10-3-2, my apologies on the mistype there, Schedule of District Zoning and Land Use Controls. Duplex dwelling units are allowed under a conditional use permit within the RS6 zoning district. So for a conditional use permit, there are 5 applicable criteria. First is that the proposed use is supported by the NAMPA Comprehensive Plan. 2, that the proposed use does not adversely impact the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity. That the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services. That the proposed use will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. And that the proposed use will not be detrimental to any persons, property, or general welfare of the community. So here are the property details. For the comprehensive plan designation, it is medium density residential. Currently, it sits within RS6. To the north, south, east, and west, there is single-family detached units for RS6. Further north, we have to the northeast industrial uses, and to the northwest, we have RD duplex, 2-family residential. And there are public utilities and services at the property. All right. So the staff analysis determined that the property is in a residentially zoned district, and there are duplex buildings to that northwest side. Currently, for parking, there are a number of spaces required per unit. Will be 2 per unit, 1 covered and 1 off-street. We did receive some comments from engineering regarding the classifications and the access that will be necessary, as well as the utilities that are currently within access to the property. And Nampa Fire District provided general comments on water supply, fire access, and emergency response time. So the proposed findings of approval, the first is that the proposed use is supported by the Nampa Comprehensive Plan. Staff found this to be met. This is an infill development of an underutilized parcel. The second is that the construction, operation, and maintenance of the property and project will not adversely impact the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity. This project qualifies as an infill development because it's increasing the density in an area that is currently underutilized. 3, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services. Staff found this to be met since the property is already annexed in and being serviced. 4, that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Staff found this to be met. 5th, that the proposed use will not involve activities or processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any persons, property, or general welfare by reasons of excess traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glares, or odors, and staff found this to be met. Here are the recommended conditions of approval. And here are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? So just one, if they were granted the conditional use, they would still have to come back for plating and all that stuff to create the lots and setbacks and
That'd be
access
correct.
and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you. We'll move on to public testimony for this item. Madam Clerk, do we have a sign-up sheet?
Mr. Chair, we have 2 people signed up. The first is Benjamin Antonis.
Okay. Just to remind you, please state your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind.
My name is, excuse me. My name is Benjamin, call me Ben, Antunis. I live at 13267 Skyview Street, Napa. And I'm here to speak against the permit. And I think we've all heard a lot of discussions about multifamily dwellings adjacent to single-family dwellings, and is there a decrease in property value? You can hear both sides of that story. You get on the internet and you look at both sides of the story. But I'm not here basically to argue that, but I'm here to argue that that's the perception, and it's well noted that people think that. If people think that, maybe you're going to lose a sale. There are other factors, of course, that deal with multifamily dwellings that cause property value to go down, the crime rate, location, how big they are, all of that. All of that may be a factor, may not be a factor in Idaho, but still, those are issues that people are going to have to live with adjacent to multifamily dwellings. But what I really want to say here today is that I think this project is outside, this project is out of character, is beyond character. And what I mean there's nothing like it in the subdivision. There are no 2-story apartments there. There are some single-level duplexes off of Grant Street. And I've noticed that in the paperwork that I downloaded, article or provision 5.53 that allows you to build up to 8 dwellings on an acre. Well, there's none of that in the subdivision. They're basically all 2 dwellings per acre. I have a half acre. My neighbors have a half acre. So that is contrary to what the subdivision is consistent of. I know these can be very difficult decisions to make, and I just ask that you put yourself in my shoes. I bought that house after I got out of the Army. I was drafted in '72, and I bought the place in '75. It was a 3rd house on Taylor Street. That 1910 farmhouse was there, and Mr. Taylor owned it. I knew Mr. Taylor. My children were small, and they used to run over because they knew they could get a peppermint stick with a smile from the family. They were great. His perception was not multifamily dwellings. So I just say, to be consistent and in character, that you look very carefully at this, and again, I stand opposed to the permit being issued. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. All right. Next on the sign-up sheet.
Next, we have Regina Richardson.
Come on down.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for listening. I'm Ben's neighbor. So
Still
I'm
need your
speaking.
address.
I'm
Address
sorry.
and full name, please.
I'm sorry.
Your name and your full name and address, please.
Forgive me. Regina Richardson, 93 North Taylor Street.
Thank you.
And my home is just right. This project is right behind my yard, the backyard. I'm speaking to oppose it. Let's see. The first thing I have here is it can be up to 16 more vehicles. It's going to be a whole lot busier than what we're used to. I have about a third up to a half. I'm not sure exactly how much property is my home, but I agree with Ben that the whole property, there's nothing there around there that's that small. And it's not even an acre. It's 0.72 of an acre to be split up into 4 different areas. Breaks my heart that the house would be torn down, the 1910 home. And the traffic and all that, it just seems like it would be a little bit more dangerous than it would need to be. A lot more people. The value of the home would go down, the area. It's what I feel in my heart. I'm not sure. I know Damien was really good and explained to me the conditional use, but I just really couldn't grasp it. But also something else that I have a question about is, it's in Idaho, our land, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do with it because it's our land. My first thought when they were going to build the 2-story buildings was, can I build a bigger fence? So I like being in my backyard, but it would really feel weird having somebody look down into my backyard while we're out back there. That's just my personal whine. I'm whining. So the people that are directly connected to this personal property, this project property, they're the ones that's going to be mostly affected by it. Because of the 2-story. And the road coming in off of Port, the property going off of Port, is that going to be the only place that they're going to be able to go in and out? That was just an off-the-wall question. And, well, I guess that pretty much covers it. I have a lot of concerns of these buildings being put on there, and it just doesn't fit the whole dynamic of our neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
There is no further signups.
No further signups. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on the proposed application? Okay. Let's have the applicant come back up and provide any closing comments or answer any questions that you had. I think we had one about access and traffic and that kind of stuff. So.
I'm sorry, sir.
Access, traffic, any closing rebuttal comments that you'd like to make?
Two of the units would face Port Street and be accessed directly off Port Street. The other 2 would be accessed by an access drive as outlined by the requirements of the City of Napa for such a facility. There are 2-story buildings in the area directly across the street, 2-story homes. And the original plan would have been for single-family residences that were 2-story as well. I understand the uncomfortableness of neighborhoods changing. I've gone through it many times myself. And that 1910 farmhouse has some beautiful work in it. A lot of it's been covered up over the years by DIYers. Our company has renovated 3 older homes and maintained their character. I would love to be able to do that to this home, but it financially is just not feasible.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? So I have one just on the switch from single family to multifamily. Is that, or to townhomes attached?
Are they townhomes or duplexes?
Townhomes.
They're actually duplex.
Oh, I'm sorry, duplex.
Yeah.
Duh, sorry, it says it right there. The change to duplexes from single family, was that, because I'm having a problem with how that is compatible to the neighborhood around. That's my biggest concern. So how do you feel like that's compatible with the surrounding area?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that, in that it does add more people into the area, but it provides greater opportunity for families to have a family-type environment versus an apartment environment. And our company goal is to try and be able to do this and provide it at a below-market rate if it's at all possible. Economics change all the time, interest rates change, material prices change, so you can't project that from this point to when the places would actually be completed, but it is a goal of the company.
Okay. Appreciate that. Any other questions? All right. Entertain.
Before we close, can I read something from the staff report?
Sure.
It says in the staff analysis, subject property is in a residential area with multiple duplex buildings in the immediate vicinity. So do we have a lot of these in the vicinity, or as some people are saying, there's none in the vicinity? Damien, did you go out there and look at this, or do you know?
So to the northwest, just out of panel of my photo here, it's the RD designation, which just is an allowed permitted use for duplexes, and there are some 2 streets over
So there are a number of duplexes in the vicinity then?
Yep,
Okay, that's
and
correct.
the zoning
Okay,
for it.
all right, I want to know, thank you.
I'm sorry, Damien, how far over? You know, can we pull up
Right there.
yeah, but you can't, that's just a snapshot of the area.
I know, it's the best one they got, though, looks like. I don't see anything in the application.
Maybe not, I just don't see, oh, well, go ahead, finish off with public hearing. Where were the ones that you had just mentioned in the RD?
They're in the orange right there.
So up here to the northwest, this is all RD, which is.
That makes more sense visually to see that. Thank you.
Any other questions before we close? Entertain a motion to close.
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kehoe and a second by Kirkman to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing's closed.
Mr. Chair, here's my comments on this particular item is that I'm looking at 10-25-4.8.2. I didn't memorize that. I just read it off here. And it's those criteria to permit a conditional use permit. And that's the one that I have the most trouble with, and that reads, the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the property and project will not adversely impact the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity. And the word general is why I'm glad you pulled up that map, because what is that? How far does that go? So here's what I think, is that this particular application is right smack dab in single-family homes. I mean, it literally is like in the center of single-family homes, and for me, that's out of character for what that vicinity is for the neighborhood and those single-family homes. If you had left it at single-family homes and rented those out, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but that's the sticking point for me and the criteria to determine whether or not the CUP is approved. Period. I didn't know if you were waiting for or question mark. Or, yeah.
I mean, I like density in certain areas, and I'd wrote down compatibility and how, just, I can't see how it's compatible with the immediately surrounding area. I know we have some duplex product to the northwest, but it's the end of a cul-de-sac. I know it's got 2 accesses, but it's a lot of units in a
do you mean a lot of
0.72 acre parcel.
Is a lot to you.
I mean, there's 8. There's 4 duplex units, so 8 units.
Compared with what's around it.
Just looking at what's around there. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, you'd have 8 doors compared to, on that 3/4 acres, compared to 2 to 3 at the most on it, everything surrounding it. So the land value, I don't think would be affected that much by that small of a number of duplexes, but it doesn't, I have a problem with it fitting as well. I don't think the surrounding property values are going to go down. It's not an apartment, it's 4 duplex units. I don't foresee the values going down and that much of a problem. But as far as the values go, but it's an older neighborhood. It's been single family detached units forever, 73. So to come and put the duplexes in the middle of it, I struggle with that as well. So.
You know, and Mr. Chair, it's not even the 2-story homes, because there are 2-story homes in that area, so that's not an issue for me, the compatibility.
I appreciate them wanting to try to bring some more doors to the area to help with housing, because we are short on it, but I just struggle with it fitting in the neighborhood of all those older detached units.
Anyone else?
I kind of agree with all you guys, too. I think it's a lot in a little space, so.
I would support if it was single family, but I don't think we can condition the conditional use permit, or they wouldn't need one if we're
Right.
doing single family. Just based on the location, that's it.
So, Mr. Chair, if there's no other comments or discussion, I move to deny the conditional use permit for 4 duplex units in an RS6 zoning district at 2705 Port Street for Idaho Real Estate Solutions representing DeRay Quarters, because the project fails to comply with, and I just turned my computer off, so I don't have that. Okay. Well, I was looking for the number. That the design, construction, oh yeah, there you go. 10-25-4.8.2, which is the design, construction, operation, maintenance, adversely impacts the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity.
And
what else you need?
I mean, maybe just a little more description there.
Follow-up description to that is that these duplexes in that particular setting, right in the middle of single-family home, residential area, well-established since the 70s, does not fit as far as compatibility. Any more, Rodney? Because I can keep talking if you want. Right. That's my motion.
Second.
The motion for the denial of this conditional use permit and a second, motion by Kirkman, second by Daffer to deny the conditional use permit this evening. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
We have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Miller?
Lost him. Oh, there you go.
Voting to deny.
I think that's a vote
Says
for
yes.
denial.
Point of clarification. Could you repeat that? What was his vote?
Vote for denial.
Denial. Thank you. Daffer?
Yes.
Turner,
Aye.
Kehoe,
No.
Morgan. He's in here. Kirkman,
Aye.
Selman. Aye. Van Acker Jr.
Aye.
Motion carries for denial.
Motion carries, yep. That will be, so that's just denied. Doesn't go anywhere. That's been a long time since we had one of those, so.
Can, just point of clarification on that, can the applicant appeal that denial to the city council?
Yep.
Is that something that we need to let him know in this, like we do with the
Yeah,
other
I think
CUPs?
he's got to read his secret message.
No, it's only if it's approved, so.
Right.
You can get with Rodney and,
So
or Daniel to
with
figure out.
staff, and there, you do have an opportunity to appeal to city council if you'd like. Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kehoe and a second by Selman to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.